All right, you guys, let's do this. All right. Tripod in hand. Oh, how is everybody else's NaNoWriMo going? Am I the only one who feels like totally frazzled this year? Am I alone in that? I've kind of come to the realization that I will not be winning Nano this year. And you know what? I think it's my first year to not win Nano. But you know what they say? Can't win them all. So just gonna go from there. It's gonna be fine. Project will still be done, just not in the time frame that I was hoping. That's all. So that's it. No, that's Otis. Otis. Oh, my neighbors are getting packages. Otis. That's enough. All right. Hello, Otis. Otis. All right. All right. Words don't get written by themselves, right? So let's start a timer and get this party started while my dogs bark in the background. All right. For some reason, the 16-minute and 37-second timer has worked pretty well. So I'm going to do 16 minutes and 37 seconds because I can. Okay. 16 minutes and 37 seconds. That's where we're at. All right. Go. So you guys can see this. Thank you so much, Travis. I really appreciate it. Thanks for joining me today. Are you writing something for Nano? If so, I want to hear about it. Let me know. What are you working on? freaks me out every time. Every single time. Okay. All right. 792. So now we go to the NaNoWriMo website and update the word count with the correct keyboard, because I just literally typed in the wrong keyboard as I'm saying it, because I'm that talented. Hey, I'm over the 20K mark. Yay! Do I want to see the graph? We're going to do it. We're going to look at the graph. Oh, it hurts. Oh, it's so hard. Not a good thing. Oh, interesting. Okay. Oh, I like that. Okay. Ooh. Oh, no. I'm literally half as far as I should be. Sounds about right. I'm not going to say that's wrong. Not the best. Like I said, I know that I'm not going to finish or win Nano this year. Usually, like every year prior to this, I've always won Nano. It has been an interesting emotional roller coaster because of that, to kind of just openly accept the fact that I'm not going to win Nano. Not my favorite. But worse things have happened. I do find it interesting, though, that last year obviously was 2020, which was the absolute worst possible scenario for NaNoWriMo. But I mean, I guess at the same time, it wasn't that bad because we were all on lockdown. So you're kind of like, oh, okay, it's fine. I'll just get my work done while I'm here. Whereas now, because that's kind of become our way of life, we've all adjusted to it differently. And so now it's just kind of like, oh, well, now that time that I had before is actually being utilized for other things. So I don't actually have that time that I originally did. Now I'm doing something with it. And that's, I think, the biggest difference. Yeah. I'm literally just over the halfway mark for where I should be. I should be at like 40K. I'm just over 20. Yeah. Oh, it is what it is, you guys. You know, and even like I haven't been making videos like I usually do, and I was hoping that I would, and I haven't been. But of course, like I said, there's tons of stuff behind the scenes. So much. I know I have research that I need to do. Oh, I feel like today is just, there's so much stuff going on today. Oh my words. So much. Have you guys been getting like feedback from your MLs? I have to say another thing. I don't do Discord, so I don't understand the infatuation with it. Like, I've tried Discord. I attempted to get into the Discord thing last year. It's cumbersome to me, and it really reminds me of the old chat rooms. It's like a dirty old chat room. So it's not my favorite. I'm not real keen on it. But I wish that, that's why I wish that we had in person, or at least I wouldn't even mind like a Zoom call, like based on like time zones or something. I know that would be like a 10 people, or like by state. What if we did it by state? What if every state was able to have like ML meetings on Zoom and like talk about what they're planning to do and everything, so we could all get different ideas? And I don't know, I think it'd be fun. I think it'd be kind of cool. I think it'd be important for all of us to be able to just talk about, different ways to help everybody stay involved, because doing everything online is not the most exciting. We shall see. Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like there's 1,000 things going on in life. I just. Hot chocolate, people. Hot cocoa solves everything. With marshmallows, let's be honest. I don't know if you guys can see that, but there are marshmallows in there that have melted. So it's like half a marshmallows floating on there. But it's fine. All good things. All good things. So I guess I can kind of tell you guys about the talk that I did with the Harris County Public Library, specifically about building characters and how to build characters and why characters matter. So let's talk about that real quickly, because it matters. So like one of the biggest things is, why characters matter so much. Why do we give so much attention to building them? Why do the profiles matter, right? And I'm gonna move you guys over there. So characters matter because literally without the characters, there is no story. Let's just start with the basics here. Without characters, there's no reason to even write a book, unless it is like nonfiction, obviously. Okay, I'm blonde. I'm not that dumb though. Now, it also gives your readers a personal connection to the story. So it gets them involved personally, emotionally. It gets them involved, with the situation of the character. And that's also part of the reason that we add things like flaws and things like, personality traits and little mannerisms that characters have. All of those add up to make this fictional character feel more real. And when someone feels real, we're more likely to connect and want to know about their story. That doesn't happen if you don't build up the character well. So ways to make that happen, right? Like, how do we make the character actually matter to someone we've never met? And if we've never met them, we don't know what that one thing is that's going to get them to connect to the character, right? So some ways to make this character matter to a total stranger is that this character, one, has to be involved in the story. If they're not well involved in it, then it's just stuff happening and the character just kind of floats through. Pardon me. I've talked about this before, but the Ugly series, there it is. The Ugly series back there, the plot just kind of rolls and the character is just kind of like that random paper bag in the wind. She just kind of gets thrown around. And the worst part about it is when the author actually tells you that everything has happened to the character and she's had no say in anything. Don't tell me that the character has had no say. I read it. I saw, like, I'm aware that the character had no say in what was happening in the story. That doesn't make me appreciate the character, the fact that she's had no say in this. It's frustrating. So allowing this character to have an arc and actually see how they grow as a person from the beginning of the story to the end of the story. And if you have a series, then there needs to be an overall arc that starts at the beginning of the series and goes all the way to the end. But you also need individual arcs through each story. So if you have a trilogy, your character will grow incrementally throughout that series and then come out at the end a completely different character. They should still be recognizable to the character they started as, but you do want them to really grow. So you want to see how much they change, how much they learn. We mean change not physically. I mean, obviously they're going to get older. They may get a couple of scrapes and bruises by the end of it, but we really want to see how they grow internally, right? Like how they change and what they learn along their journey through this. Now, that means that you're going to have an arc, right? Does every single character need one? Not necessarily. For any primary character, yes, they're going to need an arc, right? Like you need to actually show that this character mattered, right? And this also kind of comes along as anybody who's your main characters, and then anybody who's a primary character. So you're going to have kind of different levels. There's some of the, I guess people call them master characters. Those are like your absolute story does not happen without them. And then your main characters can also be like their best friends along the way, right? So at least those two different levels definitely need character arcs. We need to see how they're going to change throughout it. Now, those characters, like I said, need to be relatable. So they need flaws, they need quirks, and a good way to kind of make sure that you have those is by filling out character profiles. Now, paying attention to humans and creating a list of quirks can also kind of help because you want to make them realistic, right? They need to have motivations and goals. So part of that arc is whether or not they accomplish their goals, whether or not their motivations change. And they kind of should. So if you have a character, start the story in one area of life and then they go through a lot, their motivations will change throughout the story. There's also different kinds of motivations. So there's the, superficial motivation of, if they win this competition, then they get a check for a certain amount of money. That's great. What's the actual motivation? They're using that money to replace their sister's favorite bike that broke last week, right? I mean, like there's a deeper reason behind that superficial goal. So you want to know what the superficial goal is and what their ultimate goal is, because that's going to change how your character reacts in a situation. If they lose that competition and don't get the check, and then they're all upset and somebody goes, it's okay, it's just money. And they're like, no, you don't understand. It's not the money I'm worried about. It's the fact that I was going to use it to help replace my little sister's bike, right? So that's what we're looking at. It's their real ultimate overall goal. Now, that also means that they have to accomplish things along the way. So you do have to make sure that they do accomplish things. They're going to need to pull from themselves and from their internal character to make something happen in the story. They need to have an effect on things. Now, they need to also have an internal conflict. So not just, there's stuff happening to this character, but they need to have something happening on the inside, right? Like we need to know that your character has a daily struggle emotionally or mentally, and how that affects their day, right? So they have expectations, needs, wants, duties, and fears. And you have to decide what each one of those really is for the character and how they conflict each other. Because everything doesn't just move slowly. If you have a character who has duties and wants and needs and fears and expectations, they're like, even in real life, they're not all going to fit together. So let's say you wanted to start your own business. Your character wants to start their own business, but so they want to start their own business. However, they have a duty to go to their normal everyday job, and they have a fear of failure, and their expectation is to make $1 million by the end of the year. Do those coincide? Are they possible? Is there room for this to actually happen for the character, right? And that's what you kind of have to decide. I mean, maybe they'll come up with this amazing idea and suddenly it does take off and they're able to accomplish their goal of making $1 million by the end of the year. But their conflict has to be real. And it does kind of need to be either relatable or introduced to the reader in such a way that they can sympathize with the character, right? Now, so that's why I bring up some everyday style situations, is because a reader will be able to relate to that. And that's what we want. We want them to connect with this character and understand the issues that they're going through, even though they may not understand the exact details, like their pet dragon keeps burning them. We don't deal with that. But a cat, a cat owner who keeps getting scratched, that's something that's relatable, right? And so then they can actually kind of connect to it that way. Another thing is to insert those types of conflict, right? And there's several different kinds. And that type of conflict is going to affect how your story comes across. So we've got man versus nature, right? So if they're trying to get somewhere and the weather is really bad, that's kind of the easiest example I can give, is bad weather, right? And it's affecting their day and they're not able to accomplish things or get somewhere because of a natural disaster. That's obviously man versus nature. Got man versus society. This one I always think of Shrek, because it's one versus the mass. And so it's kind of like Shrek when he shows up and everybody's, standing there with pitchforks and torches and stuff like that. So man versus society. Then we've got man versus technology. This one is very Office Space, when they're in the middle of the field beating up the printer and the fax machine. That's what you're getting. It's the technology. So phone's not working, computer's not working. If you never had to experience a fax machine, they were extremely frustrating. Especially just the paper itself. You'd have to deal with, it was, back in the day, fax paper was on a roll. And it was not sheets of paper. So sometimes things would come through weird. And then it was like thermal paper or whatever. So it wasn't printed like regular printed items came out. It was very intriguing. So fax machines were kind of, the idea was there. The execution, not so much. So fax machines are always kind of my go-to on that. Then we've got man versus man. Obviously, this is kind of your classic, one person battles another person. This is, I have to say, probably one of the most common types of conflict that I've seen in stories, especially if you get fantasy style stories, because those have a lot of hand-to-hand combat. You've got wars going on. You've got people, the mentality was different back then. So you have people willing to pull out a knife and aim it at another person. So we don't get that as much nowadays. Obviously, not all of us look very good in orange. So that's less common now as it was in other societies in the past. So man versus man, you're usually looking at a fantasy or modern day crime of some kind. Man versus self. This is a little bit more difficult to write, because this is where you have to have a character causing their own situation. This can also come down to mental health issues for characters, where they have to overcome their own, self holding them back from accomplishing goals. So these are kind of the self-help in camouflage stories where somebody's working through something. Just a story that comes to mind with that one is The Midnight Library. That was, I think that came out this year or last year. Really great story, a lot of fun, but definitely man versus self in that one. We've also got man versus reality. So that's kind of a fun little setup. This is very Matrix. If you want to, if you haven't seen the Matrix, I mean, stop now and go watch it. But man versus reality. Then we've got man versus God and man versus no God. So this again can kind of be somebody on a journey of some kind of self-actualization to try to find out more about who they really are or what they really want out of life. And a lot of times that man versus self turns into man versus God or no God. It's kind of funny how they kind of go hand in hand, but they often do. Then we've got man versus author. This is a very interesting situation, especially for conflict, because this is where we break that wall and allow characters to come out and talk directly to the author or have some kind of interaction between the two. A really fun example of this is Adam Gidwitz's Grimm series. And in the last book, it's a trilogy. What is it called? Let's look. It's called The Grimm Conclusion, obviously. So in The Grimm Conclusion, again, Adam Gidwitz, very fun series. We've got where the characters actually show up in Adam's classroom. So it's an interesting situation, and I have to say completely unexpected. A very unexpected situation in that book. So that was really fun to read because you didn't know that that was going to happen. And we didn't see any of that throughout the rest of the trilogy. So that was, it just kind of popped in. So that was very, very cool. But that's where you get man versus author. Now, some of the resources to use in order to create characters who do all of this and who make you care about what's going on with the character. Some of those resources are simple things like the MBTI personality test, right? And these are free resources that you can find online, and they're really interesting and easy to utilize because they are readily available. And it's kind of fun to see the information that pops out for different characters when you answer questions like them. So it's, I have to say, it's pretty fun. There's also the character archetypes. There are 12 character archetypes. There are a dozen. And it's interesting to break down character types. And once you start really kind of delving into that topic, you can see some of your most beloved characters and what categories they fit in and how that has affected their character. So they will react differently based on which archetype they fit. And this actually came up in an episode of Big Bang Theory where Sheldon pretends to have a cousin who went into rehab, and Sheldon and Leonard are trying to get out of going to Penny's show. She's putting on she's an actress in Rent, and they don't want to go. So they come up with this fake story. Sheldon pushes the story. She's like, oh my goodness, she'll know that it's not that we were lying to her. And so then he just blows this lie out of proportion. But he pretends to have this cousin. This guy comes in. They start arguing about how this cousin would react to going to rehab if he was a middle child. That as a middle child, this is how he should react in this situation. So it's kind of funny. It's, and that's one of the things that a lot of people talk about. There's like the stereotype about the middle child syndrome or the firstborn syndrome and kind of things, and personality traits that you would see based on their birth order, right? I mean, like we've seen stuff like this for a very long time. So it's interesting though, because that can affect your character. You can have that as part of their backstory and have it affect how they interact in the story. Why not? Then we've also got things like obviously the character profile pages, and these kinds of things will help lead you through understanding your characters better, right? Like getting those filled out. And you can do this either before you write the story or during writing the story, just to be able to have all that information in one place so that you can reference it throughout your writing process. Pardon me. So, and just, I've got all of these resources available on Patreon. They're all free. I got them for free. You get them for free. So patreon.com Funky Like Feathers. You can find all these different resources there. There's also an emotion wheel, and this is kind of interesting to see because you can kind of see what section of the emotion wheel your character hangs out in most of the time, so that you can better understand how the good ways to describe their reactions, to kind of figure out, okay, are they yelling or are they shouting or are they screaming or are they screeching? And, how are they feeling? Are they frustrated or are they flustered or are they just pissed off? I mean, there's different categories here, and it does slightly change. I have to say American versus British, because I've actually talked to my friend MV Mackenzie, if you haven't seen her on YouTube as well. She and I have kind of talked about this because she is British, and we have different levels of like being angry and things like that, different ways that we describe it. So it's kind of interesting to see. It might be local to your region how those emotions are explained. So kind of check that emotion wheel for a reference chart. Like I said, make a list of quirks. That list of quirks can be way more handy than you think. And if you can't think of any quirks, go out in public. Go out in public, sit down either in a restaurant or, at a mall or something. Sit down and just pay attention to people. See if anybody's picking their nails. See if there's, anybody who keeps, just poking at things, or, pay attention to kids, especially kids with parents who aren't on top of them about things, because sometimes they do the best, the funniest things. There's always like that one kid who can burp the alphabet. It's just kind of weird. And you're like, but why? That's a quirk. It's a great one to add to the list. And if you have an awkward situation and you're not quite sure what to do with it, you can toss in a random character burping the alphabet, because why not, right? So people watching is one of the best things that you can do. And I mean, go to a coffee shop, sit down, see how people interact. And that's, I have to say, one of the most interesting things to do is when you watch them interacting. You can see how larger groups interact. Again, groups children are going to act differently than groups without children, especially versus senior citizens. They behave differently in different situations. Who comes in and sits by themselves? How do they sit through a meal when they don't have somebody with them? People watch, just see who's watching whom. That's kind of interesting too. And then, interviews. You can interview people and ask them questions and get their background information. Because when you do, again, you're seeing how they reacted to the situations that they were put through, right? So by interviewing, and you can also interview yourself. Think about the things that you've been through. Think about how you would fill out a character profile on yourself. And then you can kind of gauge, were your reactions related to those personality traits or those past experiences, or are they fully organic, right? I mean, that's kind of fun to do. Now, lastly, one of the things that I do for characters is I specifically envision their bedrooms, because bedrooms are personal, right? So do they have posters on the wall? Are there any pictures of family? Do they have any family left? Is there something that's going to give away their personality based on the bedroom? What kind of sheets do they have? Is there something on their comforter? How many pillows are there? Right? Like, what is the feel of the room? And that will tell you a lot about a character. It allows you, again, to personally connect. And especially if you show that bedroom throughout the story, it can help you get a better gauge on how this character interacts in their bedroom. Do they only go to the bedroom to sleep? Are they there specifically? What's their nightly routine? Are they going to go ahead and sleep or not? Oh, Kylie, you finished your nano yesterday? That is awesome. Congratulations. I'm so excited for you. Well done, madam. I will probably not finish, and I am aware, and I am accepting it. And it's a first, but it's going to be okay. So yeah, I mean, building characters and having fun with Nano is the whole point. It's got to be fun, right? Because if it's not fun, why are you doing it? Don't do it if it's not exciting. So we've only got like 10 minutes left. And now that you've finished your nano, I mean, how did you feel? Was there a happy dance involved? I have to know if there was a happy dance. I'm all about happy dances now. I feel like they need to be happening more. And I don't feel like people do happy dances enough. So it's definitely something I think that we need to include in more stories. Happy dances. Absolutely. Good, I'm glad. At least somebody got a happy dance. Yeah, I am at half of the goal that I should be at. I should be at like 40K. I'm just over 20K. Not my best year, but it's been crazy. There's tons of stuff behind the scenes. So yeah, I actually will be happy if I make the halfway point. If I make the 25K, I will be proud of myself. Let's just put it that way. There's been so much stuff going on. So yeah, which is weird. I thought I would finish every year, and usually yes. But you know what? I have to say though, it's been interesting because I think it was last year I saw like Kate Kavanaugh and Natalia Lee. I think Brooke, by the Brook, also did where they didn't worry so much about the 50K, but they just focused on getting quality words in. So they were willing to not reach that 50K mark. I'm at that point. I am at that point. So no worries. No worries. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. It's okay. I'm just going to drink hot chocolate and let the day go. It's fine. And tomorrow's Thanksgiving. I mean, let's think about this. Every single word that I've written is words that I would not have written if it wasn't NaNoWriMo. So, you know, and is it kind of, do you think it's kind of weird that NaNoWriMo is every single year during November so that you can actually be thankful for NaNoWriMo? I think, are they just tooting their own horn there? Is it just kind of fun? I don't know. I don't know. But it'll be interesting. So, I don't know. I'm excited though that the end of Nano is coming. Is that wrong? Is it wrong to be excited about the end of it? Oh, the adult challenge next year. Okay. All right. Yeah, finishing 1,700 words a day. So you are definitely finishing early. See that, and that's the thing is usually my goal had always been 2K a day. If I wrote 2K a day, I knew that I would be ahead and I could take, Thanksgiving off, but I would always finish early. I actually got a memory 2 days ago. I got a memory of finishing NaNoWriMo. So there was a year that I finished on the 22nd. Not accurate for this year. But I mean, there's gonna be there's gonna be years like this, my mama says. It's okay. It's just it's an interesting feeling. Just we're gonna go with it. I mean, I have my story idea, I have my plan, and it also was different this year because I didn't have my story charted out before Nano happened. Usually during October, I plan and I plot and I've got everything written down and outlined and ready to go. And then I'm like itching to write the story. Not so much this year. This year, I didn't even get my story idea until the 28th of October. So I had, what, 4 or 5 days before? What's that? No, it was like 3 days. I had like 3 days. Only had like 3 days to plot. That's nothing. So I was like pretty much trying to plot and write at the same time. It's not so easy. It's a lot of work. Yeah, and see, like you take days off for Nutcracker, right? I literally, and I had been tracking my words really well the whole first week, and then I headed out to drop off goodie bags, and the day got away, and then day 7. I didn't get my word count updated, and there went that. I automatically lost the ability to track every single day because I missed one day. And I woke up at like 2 a.m. going, oh my God, I forgot to update my word count. And it obviously was too late. Nothing I could do. So that's where we're at. It is what it is. So, and I guess it just kind of at that point is like, what's the point? But I do try to remind everybody every day to update your word count. Because I'd even updated people that day. I'd even told them, I was like, don't forget to update your word count. And I didn't update my own word count that day. See, do as I say, not as I do. Yeah, bad. But again, it's part of NaNoWriMo is just coming up with the new schedule of trying to make writing part of your everyday. Trying to make it as that hobby that you get back into. Because honestly, if we didn't have NaNoWriMo, not sure I would be as involved in writing as I am, or as involved in getting, words on the page and, then delving back into editing and stuff. So yeah, I mean, Nano helps you get that pattern of behavior back into your day where usually we would just kind of miss it. And especially writing creatively, that often falls to the wayside. And I mean, Kylie, you're a homeschooler, you kind of know this, is that, creative writing is very, very different than writing something like an essay or a nonfiction of some kind or instructional things, right? Now, Mama sharing AirPods. It's one of those things that we don't often push, or it's seen as second-class writing in some ways. People don't give it as much respect as it really deserves because creative writing is difficult and it's not super easy for everyone. And there's a lot of thinking involved. There's a lot of planning involved. There's a lot of the details that we put into it, and there's a method to it. We don't just sit down and put out this amazing, beautiful prose. It happens because we sit down and make it a habit of doing it. And then we read through it and go, oh my goodness, what did I write? And we learn how to edit our work. And we learn that, all the grammar that needs to be fixed. And we learn how to structure the story instead of just letting it kind of figure its way out, but not really. So there's a lot that is involved in writing stories. And I feel like having Nano allows us to put the focus on that and respect the creative writing more. Because seriously, especially for kids and teens, creative writing is not always a class that is taken seriously. And it's just kind of like, oh yeah, creative writing, it's whatever. And people just kind of go with it. And it's more difficult than most people realize. So it's good that it gets some highlighted screen time every year so that people can pay attention to that and enjoy and respect creative writing as it should be, right? It's not easy. It's not easy. So absolutely, congratulations on finishing your Nano project. I'm so proud of you. That's really cool. So big question is, when are you going to edit this amazing piece of work? When is it going to be published? Are we publishing? What are the goals here? And did you outline this, or did you just sit down and write down a story? Did you pants it or did you plot it? And when do I get to sink my teeth into it and edit it for you? Pass it my way. You'll get it back with some purple. Itchy. Guys, calm down. There's Otis. Of course. Oh. One of the things that contributes to Nano not getting done. Kids, stop that. Yeah. And tomorrow's Thanksgiving, so that's kind of exciting. I'm excited about Thanksgiving. At the same time, am I going to get any writing done? I don't know. It's going to be a crazy day. It always is. It's Thanksgiving. Oh, it is. Goodness me. My dogs are crazy. Otis? So, yeah. No intent on publishing. Okay. And no clue that you were going to write. Then that is super exciting. Like, that is absolutely awesome that you totally came up with everything and were able to finish early. Well done. Jealous. Totally jealous. I'm excited for you, though. It's really, really cool. Oh, see? Proud mama moment. I'm excited. This is so cool. Yeah, we need more people even attempting, because there's no way you can actually accomplish it if you don't even attempt it. And I think that's part of the intimidating part for some people, is just even attempting the whole process of NaNoWriMo. I mean, the first time I found out about it was in September, what, 3-4 years ago? I guess 4 years ago. Ooh. Long time ago. And yeah, I mean, it's daunting. It's a very daunting task to suddenly decide that you're going to write a book. I mean, the idea is there, but the actual execution, you're sitting there going, there's no way, right? So yeah, gotta love it. But even though you're done with Nano, doesn't mean you're done writing. There's always more work to be done, right? All right, so I'm gonna let you guys go. I hope y'all are having fun. Enjoy writing. Never stop, ever, and keep reading as well. All right, I will see you guys soon. Have fun. Enjoy your Nano. There's Otis.